Wait, everyone. My name is Hao Yi, and today I'm going to present our project is exploring the barriers and opportunity for the GIS applications. It has been 6 years actually since the appearance of the GIS, but one of the common problems is that the adoption rate is still a little bit lower than the normal level. The problem mainly is because that GIS is really depends on different of subjects. So people have to integrate the GPS with the expertise that make everything difficult. So we're really interested what is the current application of the GIS, what is the barriers for such kind of users when they use the GIS. So with the technology evolution, we really want to know is current technology that can be used to breaking the barriers for the GIS. This is a cooperation project between Horizon Digital Research Institute and Ordnance Survey. And actually, for this project, I was sent to the Ordnance Survey for around three weeks, and we designed the questionnaires. We asked around the 30 students and staff in the two institutions and make the surveys around them. We get some results, and we just want to remind some important results to you. Firstly, I want to introduce why the GIS is difficult for the novice users and where is the barriers come from. As you can see from this graph that GIS is really a multidisciplinary subject. It is really tightly related to a lot of things. You could see the softwares that has many softwares they have to use for the different subjects. Also data, a huge amount of data and different of data models. And also the methods that refer to the geospatial methods. People are always strange about this type of method. Also people is quite important factors in using GIS. It's because GIS depends on what type of application you want to use. You have to master different level of expertise for GIS. So that makes people sometimes difficult to mastering such kind of knowledge. Also hardware is quite important because from starting of the GIS, the hardware is continuing evolution, but because the data is still continue growth, the current hardware is still cannot afford some of the applications. We're really quite interested in who are the user is and what kind of applications they are using. And also we want to know is what is the barriers when they're doing such kind of application, and is any opportunity that we could do to improve the experience of the GIS. We investigate some literatures. We're trying to find out the applications of GIS. We mainly investigate 4 domains, including the government, transportation, commercials, public, and education. And surprisingly, we found that the application domains is continue to grow. Maybe 60 years ago, it's very few players in this domain, but right now, nearly every domain will use GIS who are related to the geographical information. We're trying to investigate the barriers that we found in the past. Actually, it's quite varies. There's lack of training, that's for the people's factors, lack of funding for the research factors. Also, the purpose of the GIS, the cooperators and networking, that is quite interesting, which result is the barriers of the GIS use. That means that in the past, there's to less such kind of assemble like conference like workshops for the users to mastering such kind of knowledge, technology. And also we found some some technical barriers. For example, the software side and data side, that's a quite important one because in the past, the lack of such kind of softwares and also data is quite a big problem. Software usability is that the problem of the GIS software because maybe it's the software developed by the non-expert in usability, GIS usability. So people will find that some of the software interface is quite difficult to operate and cannot find the menus and also the windows, something like that. So how could we cross these barriers? We found people, we're trying to investigate a field of participants from two groups. One group is from the University of Nottingham, one group is from Underexploited Survey. From the University of Nottingham, we mainly investigated the students. From the Underexploited Survey, we investigated the staff, many of the research staff from the use and the user group, usability group. From the two groups, there are around 1/3 for the beginners. That means that they have never touched with GIS before, and 1/3 is trained users. That means they have maybe 1 to 3 years experience of GIS. We also have the investigators, the experts in GIS. That means they have more than 5 years experience in GIS. The background varies, including geospatial, transport, civil, and geoscience. This is the investigate results that we got. If we divided the factors in two groups, as we divided before, the usability data and software side, that means the technical factors. And with the founding network, training, and variances, that's the organizational barriers, we found that it's really varies the results. But if we draw a line, that means we draw a line to cut this percentage, we found that the usability side, funding side, training, and variance are higher than the average level. But the data software is a bit lower. We found that the most important one is training. Most people answered that training maybe is the most important things for them because they never get trained, and also they never got any useful material for the beginners if they just a starter for the GIS. So that is quite important, I think, is for the GIS side to provide the beginners information to them. And also the awareness is that we investigate some people, they are not aware that GIS can provide such kind of function to them. Even they want such kind of function, but they're not aware GIS can provide. So that is also important side for the beginners. Usability side, it's interesting is we investigate people who use the GIS. They found that maybe this commercial software provide a better usability because they can check the information online, and also everything is indicated directly. But open source, they found it's quite difficult to find some of the functions because the menus and maybe the plugins is a little bit difficult. We also investigate the use of the GIS. Not surprisingly, my presentation is the major one. Most of them use GIS for my presentation, and majority of them also understand the knowledge. For example, the geospatial analysis and database management. But I think less people understand that GIS can do the design support things. They even just think GIS is a thing to present the maps, present objects, but they cannot understand GIS can integrate things and do some design support things. We also investigate several group leaders from Underexploited Survey, including the customer service and post-sales support group. These two groups many faced the general users of the GIS because they will use the Underexploited Survey map product. the user lead group understand more about the usability of the GIS for the users, so they can provide more information regarding to the usability. We also investigate some technical researchers and academic research in University of Nottingham about the suggestions for the research direction of the GIS and how to reduce the barriers for the current technology. This is just a few summarized results. Most people think that GIS right now, for the beginners, is not easy to use, and they have to learn the key skills. And second one is that they find that most users, if they use the GIS, they just use for the very beginning of very easy applications. Regarding to the complex applications, they have to refer to programming and some difficult things that make the users feel frustrated and difficult to continue their use of the GIS. And also, I think GIS, because it refers to a multidisciplinary knowledge, and really the professional knowledge is quite important, but this means that they have to take quite a lot of time to learn the knowledge. That makes sense difficult. We found interesting things is in audience survey group that the professional users, they found that the current computing power is quite difficult to afford to some of the applications, particularly the applications refer to the massive data volume. For example, the data related to the whole of the global, but they have to deal with that. And also, I think the young experts, that's if they want to move forward, they have to use the very detailed technical documents. But for open source and some of the even commercial products, it's quite difficult to provide a very detailed documents for the users. Regarding to our discussion, we provide several solutions, but I think it still gets some limitation and constraints. The first one is open source GIS. We get quite large of GIS, and it's very good for the education purpose because it's transparent for the code, and you can demonstrate how to use the GIS, how the GIS structured for the beginners. But the problems, as I mentioned, is documents, and GIS is low cost, so that can be used for different group, even for the commercials. That's a good benefit, and also it's easy to expandable for the projects. I think this is quite good for some projects that need to integrate GIS. As open data, I think open data is quite important to take care. Currently, the OpenStreetMap can provide very good quality data from the previous data. Is around 70s coverage of the OpenStreetMap, but the data quality is still a problem. But it can be free to download and free to use. That at least solves the problem of the data in some degree. Also, the cost, I think, is quite reduced because you don't need to pay for the data. Regarding to the audience survey, they have the commercial product, but it's quite expensive for some users. Currently, they provide the open data, like open space, so it can release some free data to the people. Another thing is cloud computing. This is for one of the leads which needs very powerful computation. The cloud computing is really it's a potential direction that can be used for the GIS. So you can promote the GIS remotely, and people can compute their applications remotely. That can reduce the cost because you can share the resources, share the data, and now with others as well. Thank you very much, and this is my research. Thank you. Any questions? questions?